It has been the
Hey
greatest
guys,
honor
it's
and
Reese
privilege
here
of my life
with
to share your home for
my neural
5 years
network,
and to have some responsibility for
nicknamed Big
your
Puma,
future.
playing
Now,
Flappy Bird.
Hong Kong people are to run Hong Kong.
It's training on machine learning models as well as other parameters or whatever.
Hong Kong had become British under Queen
It's for
Victoria.
documentation.
Tonight, her descendant helped to give it back.
Unprecedented though this moment in history may be, we have the utmost confidence in the abilities and resilience of the Hong Kong people. Britain learnt long ago that Hong Kong people know best what is good for Hong Kong.
And then the skies exploded with noise and colour. At the stroke of midnight, Britain returned its former colony to China. The former governor and heir to the throne said goodbye for the last time as Britannia sailed majestically out of Hong Kong harbour. But just weeks later, the whole world was stunned by shocking news.
We can report that the British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook, speaking in the Philippines, has just confirmed that Diana, Princess of Wales, has died following the car crash at midnight in Paris.
The driver of the car in which Princess Diana was travelling lost control while being pursued by paparazzi. Her companion Dodi fired and the chauffeur were also killed. As Britain awoke to the news of her death, Tony Blair addressed the nation.
Our thoughts and prayers are with Princess Diana's family, in particular her two sons, the two boys. Our hearts go out to them.
Prince William and Prince Harry were on holiday with the royal family at Balmoral in Scotland. With the support of the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh and Prince Charles, they braved the cameras to see the public's offering of flowers, cards and personal messages left in respect of their late mother. Diana would be remembered as the People's Princess. Much of her royal life had been devoted to charities, many of them involving young people. And as an international celebrity, she raised awareness about many issues.
Having seen for myself the devastation that anti-personnel landmines cause, I am committed to supporting, in whatever way I can, the international campaign to outlaw these dreadful weapons.
16 hours after her death, Prince Charles and Princess Diana's sisters brought her home, her coffin draped with her royal standard.
Everybody loved her.
On Saturday the 6th of September 1997, hundreds of thousands came together on the streets of London. As Princess Diana began her final journey, the Union flag above Buckingham Palace was lowered to half-mast. Like the Queen bowing to the coffin, it was another small but symbolic change in royal protocol. Inside Westminster Abbey, dignitaries, pop stars, politicians, family and friends gathered to pay their respects. As thousands watched silently in Hyde Park, 2.5 billion people watched around the world, a testament to the affection for this global figure. A very public day of mourning ended with a private ceremony at Althorpe, the princess's family home in Northamptonshire. In the weeks and months that followed, it was obvious Prince William and Prince Harry needed their father more than ever, and he was constantly by their side. The young princes were of international interest. On a tour to Canada, a notably handsome Prince William was quickly gaining a reputation as a teen idol. In respect for their privacy, the royal family asked the press only to photograph the princes at official events. And 2 months after Princess Diana's death, Prince Charles took his youngest son on a royal tour of South Africa. The trip included a charity event with the Spice Girls, who quickly took Prince Harry under their wing. Earlier, the girls had caused havoc when they met President Nelson Mandela.
No, you're not old. You're as young as the girl you feel, and I'm 25.
I take that off.
But a visit to a township proved to be a highlight for Prince Harry when his father was offered a local brew. And after accepting generous presents for his children, Prince Charles joked about playful squabbles at home.
We have collected so many Zulu shields, spears and sticks that we may easily now be able to start a small Zulu war of our own. And I can see how my work is going to be cut out preventing such a war from taking place.
In return for respecting their privacy, the cameras were allowed the odd front row seat on the young prince's lives. And as he prepared for his driving test, Prince William remained calm, even with the added pressure of an audience. With his son towering above him, Prince Charles joked about the purpose of the photo shoot.
This is just to show how quickly I'm shrinking.
Towards the end of this momentous year, there was finally something for the Queen and Prince Philip to celebrate. It was their golden wedding anniversary. After a service of Thanksgiving at Westminster Abbey, the Queen toasted her husband.
He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family, and this and many other countries, owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know.
The royal couple wed at Westminster Abbey in November 1947, and throughout 50 years of marriage have managed to balance public duty and private devotion. They have symbolized stability, even in the midst of adversity, and as a working team offered each other continuity over 5 decades. For most of their married life, their floating home from home had been the royal yacht Britannia. But sadly, the government had decided to decommission the grand old ship in December 1997. The royal yacht was launched in 1953 and began a long and illustrious career
I named the ship Britannia.
Over a span of 44 years, she had sailed the Queen and her family around the globe on 968 official voyages. For the last time, the Queen stepped aboard. Thousands of well-wishers and crew joined the royal party to say a final thank you and farewell to a ship which had served them so well.
Bring off. Finish with main engines. Thank you very much.
As the decade drew to a close, another member of the royal family became the centre of attention. The youngest of the Queen's children, Prince Edward, was to marry public relations executive Sophie Rhys-Jones. Born in 1964, Prince Edward enjoyed a relatively unconstrained life compared to that of his siblings. On leaving university, he joined the Royal Marines, but soon left to pursue his true passion, the theatre. Flanked by his two best men, Prince Charles and the Duke of York, the newly titled Earl of Wessex arrived at St George's Chapel to a roar of excitement. Rather than a big London wedding, the couple chose a more intimate occasion at Windsor Castle. The last of the guests to arrive were the Queen and Prince Philip, who took their places next to the 98-year-old Queen Mother and Princess Margaret.
Want me to order you something?
No.
The bride looked stunning in a dress by designer Samantha Shaw. Escorted up the aisle by her father Christopher, the bride looked at ease as she began her royal journey. They took their vows in front of family and friends and a global audience of 200 million. After a tussle with the ring, the groom showed his bride off to an eager public before making their way back to the castle for their reception. It was a happy end to the royal year, and as the decade drew to a close, the whole country was looking forward to a momentous celebration of its own. As Britain raced to the end of the millennium, spirits were high. All over the world, people anticipated a new era. And in London, Tony Blair set the Millennium Wheel in motion, firing a laser beam across the Thames before addressing the public.
To everyone here and throughout Britain, have a happy and wonderful new year. From us all here in Britain to people throughout the world, we wish you peace, we wish you prosperity in the new millennium.
The Queen watched as the first of hundreds of beacons were lit across the country. And at the Dome, the people waited expectantly as this tumultuous decade came to a close. In the next decade, the world would face a new terror threat.
I saw a glow and ran like hell.
The younger royal generation would take centre stage.
I always wanted to carry on my mother's legacy, and I don't want to take over from her, because I never will. I don't think anyone can.
And the country would erupt with pride at the biggest royal wedding ever.
So excited. So excited.
No way. My neural network's at 11,000. $12,000.
When it comes to their pets, the monarchy has always done things differently from the rest of us. Kings and queens raised in the rarefied atmosphere of royal palaces have often tolerated eccentric behaviour in their animals.
Harvey has soiled some of the finest carpets in the land.
In life, some royal pets are pampered to death, while in death some are immortalised in stone, and others interred in royal burial plots. When they outlive their masters, some are even allowed pride of place in the funeral procession.
The collar was made of silver, and it simply said, "I belong to the king."
Over the centuries, royalty has exerted a considerable influence on our taste in pets. The royals have made obscure breeds fashionable, imported lapdogs from far-flung royal empires, and even created new breeds of their own. Perhaps it's no exaggeration to say that pets as we know them today wouldn't have existed without royal influence. Cats have played a greater role in the lives of their royal owners than we might expect. During her life, Queen Victoria owned a total of 88 different pets, and her residence at Osborne House in the Isle of Wight is a monument to their obedience to their mistress. In the age of the tabloid kiss and tell, obedience is something that the monarchy can no longer always take for granted. So, to modern royals, a pet represents that rarest of things, a loyal subject.
A dog is totally discreet, or almost 100% discreet. They do, of course, wag their tails in acknowledgement and recognition of people, but on the whole, you can rely on a dog not to gossip, not to repeat anything, not to filter the newspapers, and they're there all the time.
But sometimes royal dogs do go walkabout. For Prince Charles, the loss of a trusted friend took on all the significance of the constitutional crisis.
Charles lost his Jack Russell figure when he was staying at Sandringham in Norfolk. The dog just went off hunting, as Jack Russells do, and apparently they think he went down an enormous hole, and the whole place was searched for 24 hours to try and find this dog. I mean, Charles was absolutely inconsolable, as anyone that loves dogs would be.
For Princess Anne, it was a case of a loyal pet making unwelcome headlines. After her bull terrier attacked 2 children in Windsor Great Park, Her Royal Highness was fined the princely sum of £500 and became the first member of the British royal family to become a convicted felon. Also no strangers to the glare of the media spotlight are Princess Michael of Kent and her husband, the Queen's cousin. Away from the massed ranks of paparazzi, they are surrounded by a coterie of pets. Their country retreat in Gloucestershire is home to a menagerie of cats and other animals, and by her own admission, the princess owes her very royal status to a dog.
My husband always had an Alsatian. I hear that the dog was quite fiercely protective of its territory where he lived, and perhaps ladies weren't quite brave enough to pass the sentry at the door. I have this theory that he was unmarried for so long because this dog was so enchanting that he was perfectly content with the company of his dog. And then when the dog died, he got me.
Today, it's a slightly smaller dog that's the most recognisable icon of British royalty. Behind these walls, a dynasty has ruled supreme for over 70 years. The Royal House of Corgi. Corgis were originally bred for herding cattle, because their stature enabled them to nip at the hooves of recalcitrant cows. Now they're more likely to be seen and heard in the corridors of the royal residences.
The Queen's Corgis have perfected a perfect early warning system so that her staff know when she's about to come into a room. And their claws make a real symphony of sound, and that is what they call the alarm system. You hear the claws and then you know that Her Majesty...
The goal with this video is to get to at least 100,000, maybe at least 1 million. This was our first ever testing of playing with Flappy Bird, Neuroevolution.
Since then, the love affair between Her Majesty and her Corgis has endured for as long as her royal marriage. The Queen's Corgis always accompany their owner as she travels between her official residences and estates at Sandringham and Balmoral. When royal duties take her abroad and separate her from her most trusted canine companions, the Queen insists that her dogs are there to meet her off the plane.
She loves them so much that when she comes back, the dogs are brought to the airport to greet her, and they cause quite a lot of havoc in the car as well, chewing things.
For the royal dynasties of Europe, bloodlines and breeding were an obsession. Historically, royal marriages were arranged to ensure that the monarchy remained a breed apart. So, it's no surprise that when it comes to royal pets, pedigree is paramount. Good breeding has always been an essential part of royal history. Traditionally, political links between royal houses were forged by intermarriage. Over time, the desire to preserve the integrity of the royal line has been applied to pets as well. The Queen's personal interest in the fine art of dog breeding has even resulted in a new breed entirely, the Dorking, a cross between a Corgi and a Dachshund. To ensure that only the most well-heeled dogs enjoyed royal privileges, the royal kennels at Sandringham were established in 1879. The kennels have been producing the renowned Sandringham strain of black Labradors since 1911, including the Queen's father's three favourites, Minzy, Scrummy and Stiffy. Inheriting the breeding bug from her Labrador-loving father, the Queen oversees the breeding programme personally. All new puppies are registered with the Kennel Club with the prefix Sandringham and named by Her Majesty herself.
Jade, until she's actually sort of done something terrible, and she's not. Jade, when you took the puppies' dinner the other night, what did I do? Oh, Jade. Jade.
She ate the puppies' dinner.
Yes, she ate the puppies' dinner.
See that?
And then there was a grinning face all over the hall, wasn't there? Jade.
To secure the continuation of the royal line, the Queen has presented Prince William with one of her most prized assets.
Widgeon is William's Labrador, and Widgeon, he's called that because it's a type of bird. And he is a shooting dog, and he has sired, certainly, one family of puppies.
The Queen's generosity is also extended to heads of state and foreign dignitaries, where once a monarch would have given the hand in marriage of her son or daughter, now she proffers the paw of a Labrador.
She has given these to certainly Giscard d'Estaing, and I believe even Mitterrand's dog may have come from the royal kennels at Sandringham. Obviously, because they come from the Queen, the royal Labradors have the highest reputation in the world for that particular breed.
The royal interest in dog breeding also has a more competitive edge. Basset hounds were the first royal dogs to be exhibited at Crufts by Queen Alexandra. And by 1894, when the Prince and Princess of Wales showed bassets descended from dogs given to them by the Comtesse de Paris, foreign breeds reigned supreme.
In the 19th century, everybody was very concerned about breeding national dogs in French. The Basset Hound is a French dog, and she gave these to Flappy.
Also, for those wondering,
to the
neural net
Wales
model
Major
is
Edward VII, and he then
CSTX,
bred himself from these
Convolution.
two dogs.
Through their preoccupation with pedigree, the royals have become the arbiters of canine good taste. During the days of the British Empire, large sums of money regularly
Standardized.
changed hands for good pedigree dogs, and in India, the ruling classes considered owning a Crufts champion to be the height
I don't know,
of success.
CSXT.
In the 1920s, the Maharaja
I
of
don't remember
Junagadh
exactly.
spent £22,000
But it's
on
experimental.
his favourite golden retriever, Roshan Lara, to a best-in-breed winner called
One of a
Bobby.
kind.
As soon as the marriage was consummated, which I think was fairly immediate, then Bobby was sent to dispatch. Because Maharaja had absolutely no interest in Bobby. But Rose Lara spent the rest of her days on a silver palanquin with these wonderful puppies that looked after and adored by the Maharaja with an incredible style.
But good breeding doesn't always ensure good behaviour. Princess Michael of Kent's black Labradors may have blue blood, but they still possess the basest of animal instincts and have to be restrained from consorting with commoners.
Because the Labradors tend to stray, because people walk past going for walks with their own dogs, so they like to join in, and I'm always a little bit worried about that. So we've inserted something called an invisible fence, which is a very, very clever idea, because you bury a wire around your garden or around the area that you want to keep the dogs in, and you put a special collar on it. Actually, it's got a little device inside that when they come near this buried wire, it rattles. And if they try to cross the buried wire, they actually get an electric shock, like you put an electric fence for cattle. And when they've done that once, believe me, they don't do it again.
Despite the elaborate precautions taken to stop one of the dogs, Bravo, from straying, it didn't prevent her from getting a taste of forbidden food.
My housekeeper in the kitchen said, "Oh, Garber's rolled on her back, and she looks quite large." And Labradors, they eat a lot, they get fat and so. and she was very young, and she took her down to the vet.
So she's ran the
and
neighborhood
scant,
and found
and of course
it,
she
but
had
when she got
puppies a
back
few
home,
weeks
the power
later.
was back on.
But how?
She's
And they were
holding this
little
dog in
black
her arms.
Labrador puppies.
And it started
So
shocking the
this is
shit out of her.
extraordinary.
trying
I
to
mean, she
cross
had the
the
good taste to
invisible
find a
barrier
black
back into
Labrador.
her.
My husband, being president of the
She's
Big
holding
Puma,
the dog.
can't actually have illegitimate children, you know.
She's like,
and so we thought the best thing to do is to bring them up, and at 3 months, give them to all the neighbours, and they grew, and they grew, and they grew, and they're all this big. And the father was clearly a Newfoundland. They are huge dogs, and perfectly charming. We meet them all the time because they're, and the mothers sort of could pass underneath their tummies almost, you know?
One of the results of the royal scandal was Big Boris. Although he seems unconcerned that he's not purebred royal pedigree, his mum would clearly like him to behave with a bit more decorum. Having resolved their differences, Mum and her much bigger son posed together as if for a royal photo opportunity. Inevitably, the royals' taste in pets
Confirmed 41-9.
Dogs that once were
18.
only fit for a king are now commonly owned by the British general public. Not only has the monarchy made pet owning fashionable, but it's been responsible for